Hello and welcome to Business India with me Tarun. The amendments which have been introduced to the Income Tax Act will ensure that a government gets a lot of black money to where it belongs. It is in the government coffers, because a scheme that will now be introduced will ensure that 50% tax will have to be paid by people who have accumulated this kind of money, and after they pay this 50% tax, they will not have to pay any other penalty, but out of the remainder 50%, 25% will have to be kept in government deposits as an interest free deposit for 4 years. But a lot of people are expected to come forward and deposit their money in the banks. The income tax yield will go up. A lot of money will also come in for development of the country, because this revenue never existed in the books of the government and the income tax department, but this will come to the government coffers now. To understand the implication of such a decision and the amendment to the Income Tax Act in detail, I have got KK Mittal, market expert, with me. Mr. Mittal, could you explain to our viewers the impact of such a decision taken by the government?
The impact would be that there would be a tax compliance and tax mobilization. By introducing scheme 2, income tax disclosure scheme 2, the government has enlarged the base and once again offered that people should be declaring their income under this scheme, and they should be paying tax and be done away from harassment and penalty at a later stage from the income tax department. Now under the scheme, the tax would be at the rate of 30%, and then 33% would be the penalty and 10% would be the surcharge. So the total implication would be about 49.9%. And out of this, you need to deposit 25% in the Pradhan Mantri Gram Vikas scheme, and 25% is available for immediate consumption. So this is a win-win situation for depositor of money under demonetization or remonetization scheme. So I would call it that this is a win-win situation for people who are still holding or black money is stacked. Now the total implication would be that out of estimation of 14.5 lakhs crores of currency which is in circulation, the government has already received 8.5 lakh crore approximately. Now the 6 lakhs crore is still within the system, and we have 30 days for disclosure. Now this 6 lakhs, even if the government able to mobilize 3 crores of 4 lakh crores into the voluntarily disclosure scheme 2, then government is going to mop up something around 50% of tax and 25% deposit in the Gramin Vikas deposit scheme. So it's a win-win situation for the taxpayer, it's a win-win situation for the government. And this is primarily done because a lot of schemes were prevailing in the market for exchanging old currency with the new currency. Every day we are hearing that somebody is ready to exchange the currency at 30%, at 40%, at 50%. We know that on 8th and 9th of November, a lot of gold was sold at the rate of 52,000 or 50,000 per 10 grams. So there is a price differential of 20,000 or 22,000. So already people are spending 30% in exchanging old and new currency. So by this, the government will mop up 30% tax and penalty and overall 50% tax, and win-win situation for the taxpayer or depositor. They will get their money
Okay. Now
right, and there would be no
that's a good point. I'm
issues,
going across
no
to
problems
Vipin
subsequently.
Malik, former Director, Reserve Bank of India. Mr. Malik, if you could share with our viewers in detail the implication of the government's amendments to the Income Tax Act, because earlier when you had to pay tax which went up to 93% in the scheme which was earlier announced, a lot of people, it was believed, wouldn't have ever come up with the money, and but now a lot of people will come up with the money. What is the implication in your reading or your understanding of the situation?
Let me start with a little bit background. You see, in 2015, the government came with the black money, undisclosed income, foreign income and assets 2015. That was the first ordinance which came. Very recently, an income disclosure scheme, IDS 2016. And now, after 8th November, after disclosure of this ban of or derecognition of the 500 and 1000 rupee note, now this new taxation law amendment, second amendment bill 2016 has come. Now, you see, every time we are bringing amendments, schemes, no doubt government collect funds out of it. Some were collected in the IDS 2016. I don't know whether how much will come on from this amendment. Second finance amendment 2016 has two parts. One is amendment to section 115 BE of the Income Tax Act, where they say that you pay and 25% of 60%
Okay.
Surcharge, which will be 15%. So 85% is under section 115 BE. The second option which has been given is by inserting a new chapter which is called chapter 9A of the income tax. That it is 30% income tax, 10%
I think we've lost connection with Mr. Malik. We'll get him back in a bit as soon as the phone lines work again. But I'm going across to KK Mittal again. Mr. Mittal, we would like to understand from you, as Mr. Malik was saying, that the government had the income disclosure scheme in 2015, 2016. What sort of a response do you expect this time around?
See, the 2015 scheme was to declare their foreign assets, and government was successful. And then before this, there was a scheme which is closed on 30th of September, so whereby more than 60,000 crore was declared, and government would be in a position to collect out of that 45% of tax in 3 installments. And this time, because of the cancelling of 1000 rupees notes and 500 rupees notes, the taxpayer or the black money holder are not having any choice. So either they will deposit the money into the bank and explain subsequently to the income tax department the sources of income, the sources of deposit, and pay penalty and other penal provision, or you disclose now voluntarily under this scheme and pay 50% tax. So it's a win-win situation and favorable situation to the holder of black money. Now this is also applicable, as I understand, to the people who has already deposited money after 8th of November into the bank. So they can also disclose under this scheme and pay the taxes. So as far as the working of the scheme is concerned, I think it is favorable to the black money holder, and it is only extension of little more than 5% of additional tax which a taxpayer will have to pay over and above the scheme which is closed on 30th of September.
Okay, I'm getting in.
So this time there is a difference.
Okay, I take your point. I think I have got Mr. Vipin Malik back on the line. Mr. Malik, am I audible to you?
Yes, please.
Mr. Malik, you were saying
I can
something
hear-
when the phone line got cut.
I can hear you.
Okay, can you continue the statement that you were making on the whole issue? Yeah.
I don't know where I got disconnected, but let me start it again. That I said that a new chapter 9A of the Finance Act 2016 has been added.
Yes.
Of the 30% is the surcharge.
Yes.
Comes to 49.5%. And then there is a Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Cess. Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Cess, which is that 25% of that has to be deposited with the government, and which will not bear any interest for next 4 years. So, frankly speaking, it would have been better if, rather than bringing the scheme after the simultaneously on disclosure of the, when the Prime Minister was saying that I am delegalizing the currency of 500 and 1000. But in any case, there I durust hai. I would say that this people should have been given more time. You see, to get into the advantages or taxes, people have to settle their businesses also. There is no immediate cash sometimes available, or there are committed cash. You have to take it from some people. So it is all a vicious circle. If people would have been given a much larger time and then brought this Finance Act 2016, and that would have been much better.
Now, Mr. Malik, I want to ask you, there would have been very compelling reasons for the government to think through and again ponder over its decision and then introduce this 50%, because earlier with cesses, we are told that the tax rate went up to 93% on the scheme that was announced on November 8. Do you think that there will be a rethink in the government on this decision too, given the implication of the decision? Because as you say, there is a lot of committed cash, because a huge number of businesses in this country run only on cash. Do you think there will be a rethink, or we are done for good now?
I don't know. I mean, I told you that we have in the last 2 years brought two ordinance, and now, so if we are not satisfied that people are coming forward in earlier two, I will not be surprised that people will not be satisfied with this also. You see, what is happening is that you have to be a very friendly with the people. You see, I mean, threatening people, the SSC, they get panic that maybe tomorrow God knows what will happen. So you have to be a friendly tax department rather than a penalizing tax department. We have income tax forms.
Okay.
Are you able to hear me?
Now you are audible.
Hello.
Please go on. Please go on. Please go on. You are audible.
Okay. You have 7 income tax return forms, from individuals to companies, individual firm, companies, cooperative societies, and political parties. There are 7. If you go through the forms, each form has around 40 to 50 pages, and each form, for those 40 to 50 pages, have column from 400 to 700, say 1600 or 1700. To fill those columns, it requires every SSC to be a qualified chartered accountant.
That's a good point.
Instead of simplifying the laws, what you are bringing is adding laws, adding amendments, changing the tax rate. In the form, if you see also, there are different tax rates. Income from capital gain is a different tax rate. Income income from securities is a different tax rate. It's impractical even for a chartered accountant to fill up a form in 10 days for one assessee. So I will suggest the government, rather than bringing finance bills, amendments and amendments and amendments, why don't you do a simplified tax structure? The simplified tax structure means that everybody, every individual, any company can understand that form and fill up that form. If the government wants to have a more tax collection, the only way out is simplification, simplification and simplification. I can assure you that if these amendments keep on coming up, there will be lesser taxation, lesser payment, lesser, and SSC will be running away from you.
That's a very good point made by him. And I'm going across to Mr. Mittal. Mr. Malik made a very strong point that simplification is the way to go to ensure compliance from large number of people. Mr. Mittal, do you think that it is indeed time that radical measures are taken to this effect of simplifying the whole tax collection system?
I think simplification of the taxation system procedures are a different issue, and tax compliance is a different issue. We have made a beginning, and we have initiated a process of direct tax code, I think in 2012 budget, but now that has no more discussed and nothing in the process of simplification of taxation laws and procedures. So that is one which is something else. Another important issue is the tax compliance. No, whatever the government is coming up as on today is for tax compliance purposes. If we have a look on compliances, is still little more than 4% of the population is filing their return. Few lakhs, that is around 2 lakhs people who are declaring their income more than 1 crore in the bracket of 50 lakhs to 1 crore. We have in Delhi Audis, and out of every now the 20th car you will find either Mercedes and Audis. We have about 50 crores of vehicles in India, including two-wheeler and four-wheeler. But taxpayers are hardly 7 crores. We have about more than 100 crores of mobile phone, but taxpayers are just, I am not saying that every mobile holder is a taxpayer. But what I am trying to pinpoint is that the compliances, which is a major issue. Even in Delhi, people are having 4 cars, 2 Mercedes, but they are not taxpayer and they are not filing their return.
On the RBI.
So that's the issue.
I would like to know, and the people who are seeing this program, Mr. Malik, would also want to know, with the whole demonetization which has happened, they say a lot of money will come into the formal economy. A lot of small traders who primarily deal in cash will now become taxpayers as you move towards plastic money. Do you see that happening in the next 3 quarters or 4 quarters, or do you think it will need much more, or otherwise will all these people switch to 2000 rupee notes to do the same thing that they did earlier? Do you think there's going to be some big change that happens? What is your reading?
My reading is that the shadow economy is going to be merged with the real economy. How much time it will take depend again on the government. You see, government has to, through the banking system, give back the money for the projects. I mean, projects have to be allowed to continue. As on today, all the projects are getting disturbed. So unless the government start immediately working on it, it will not be possible to do it in 2 months or 3 months. The work has to start now, and the government should announce that these are the projects, whether it's a road construction or a metros or a telecom or a railways or power, they should start immediately so that the money come back to the people and they start working on it. Having said so, I have one more, and that earlier I also said that I was listening to Mr. Mittal about that the people are not complying with. Let me tell you that in Income Tax Act, in 1969 there were 298 sections. Even today there are 298 sections. But in the last 5 years, there was, in say 2001, there were subsections which were 351. And 2015, that 351 sections reached 562. And in the last 2 years, it has 40 more subsections added. So it means 600 subsections have been added. Who will understand all these things? Now, service tax. We introduced service tax in 93, 94 with the 10 subsections. 30 subsections. We started with how many services? We started with 3 services, then added to 52, 60, 100, and now we have a negative list. The problem is that every year if you keep on changing this, every year you keep on amending this, it is not practical to have the pace by the SSC with the department. So in return, what happens is that the people stop paying taxes or they go into the cash economy.
It's a very significant comment that the kind of laws that we have historically in this country prevent compliance. Mr. Mittal, do you see this as a big impediment, as Mr. Malik has pointed out, that a lot of people go out of the system due to the complications?
I think, Mr. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And I think for overcoming this issue now, GST is being introduced, and a lot of tax laws would be redundant. So there would be one taxation, that is GST, and which is going to be implemented from the next financial year, expectedly. So we may see that one tax prevailing all over India, so it is going to unite India as one country. Then the different tax laws prevailing in each and every state with different tax structure and tax rate. So now a lot of simplification is initiated, and I have a strong feeling that even in the income tax laws, the government will start rethinking on simplification of tax laws and it would proceed towards direct tax code, so that one can abolish all subsection, all additions, deletions are now to be brought in one tax law.
Okay. I'll go to Mr.
So
Malik.
that is very essential and very important.
Since you raised GST, Mr. Malik, what you seem to be implying that demonetization is one good thing, but it has to be followed up with easing of the whole tax structure, amendments to the act which will simplify right from the number of forms to the number of subsections. Now what change of mindset will it require at the bureaucracy level to get this done? Do you think we have the will to get this done? And do you see this happening because such a big step of demonetization has been taken? Do you think this is a fallout? And more or less, what happens when the GST comes into effect? Will it ease things? Will GST go a long way in easing things? What is your view on all these things?
Well, is one step which I think will change the whole economy of the country and help the cash economy to merge with the real economy. So that is one of the very good steps, provided they don't mess up with the number of forms, the number of pages, the number of columns, and all sort of data, that from how many shirts to the how many shoes you have. I mean, see the form. Okay, you take the bank details, I don't mind, but I mean, there are columns of 1700 columns you have to fill in. I mean, it's impractical. So I will say that very good, recognize, delegalize 500,000 rupee note, you simultaneously 90% of the income tax act and bring a simple structure, pure and simple structure.
Very,
One for company,
very
one for
good
individual,
suggestion
one for
made by
firm,
Mr. Malik.
one for cooperative societies.
Very good suggestions made by Vipin Malik in today's discussion. We'll continue this discussion in our next episode. But thank you so much, Mr. Malik and Mr. Mittal, for joining us on this edition of Business India. Thank you so much. Thank you.